Hello, welcome to Talking in Stations. I am Matterall from Imperium News, and today we have a show about the New Eden Trading Company. And that is a series of citadels that will actually net across all of New Eden, bringing supplies to remote areas and so forth. So let's start off with some introductions. We'll start with Caleb. How are you doing?
Hey there. Thanks for having me.
Sure. Caleb is part of CC Lounge, SCC Lounge, I believe. And you actually started PvPing recently, right?
I'm trying.
Recently started dying. Um, yeah, so let's move to Jeronica, who was on last week, and welcome back.
Thanks for having me.
Sure. We're back on the NETC topic. Last week we were talking about industry and harvesting and stuff like that. And in the bottom corner we have McLeod. How are you doing?
Hel- Yeah, I'm good. I'm good. Lovely. Well, I say it's a lovely afternoon here in the UK, but it's fairly overcast. But it's December. What do you
Yeah.
expect? So,
Actually, today in sunny California, it looks like London because there's a lot of clouds and stuff. Off camera, we have Rivra.
Hey, I'm Riva. I do editing at TMC and hang out in Jita.
That's right. And finally, we have Celine from MC.
Good afternoon, everybody.
It's Mercenary Coalition. That's actually a very historic alliance, isn't it?
Famous and infamous, depending upon who you ask, I imagine.
Right.
But definitely old.
All right.
Old yet new again.
Okay, let's get started with the show. As I stated before, we are going to talk today about the New Eden Trade Company. And first question is, what is it? Who wants to take a stab at that? Jeronica, probably?
Yeah, so basically, the New Eden Trading Company is a series of citadels, keep stars and fortizars primarily. The keep stars are pretty much stationed at the edge borders of a low sec going in null, and they're just there to pretty much just anything that the null wants. We would try to have neutral traders go there and kind of stock it for them. And these are connected by a series of fortizars within jump range of each other to keep it safe.
I linked you the map in Twitch chat so people can see what it is.
Thanks. So whose idea was this?
Lenny Kravitz was the one who pretty much brought everything together. He started probably a few months ago talking on Reddit about it. And from what I recall, his first idea was to do high sec, but no one thought that would take off, so he moved to low sec.
So,
I guess Celine would have more information.
yeah, how did
on
you
that.
get involved with it, Celine?
Well, Lenny first started talking about, well, I think that everybody started talking about what they could do with citadels when they were first announced, like forever ago, it feels like now. And I believe that Lenny's first idea was, as Jeronica said, was to like try and set up a keep star somewhere near Jita, which was everybody's thought. But, that's not happened yet because you can put Marcus and Fortizars and they work just fine. Um, this idea for the network, I can't remember exactly when it started, but it didn't really seem to start gaining real momentum until probably late summer. I know that the Mila Keep Star went up, and that was sort of the beginning of what a lot of people associate with it. And I can't remember when Anowin dropped. I'll never pronounce that name right. I even type it like that when I ask for sinos there. But then everybody had already been dropping their own Astrahus networks everywhere. I mean, when Goons left the north, there was a string of Astrahuses all the way fucking down. I know MC dropped a big old network of the things all over the place so we could bounce around, and so did a lot of other folks. So, but what people really seem to kind of want would be a safer way to do that sort of thing. So it just organically grew into the fact, well, why don't we link these keep stars that we're planning on putting down as like free ports with Freeport Citadel or with Freeport Fortizars to kind of help everybody. And when MC dropped our keep star in Baskirin, we had actually planned on making that a free port from like a while back. Everybody had their own ideas what they were going to do, and we sort of kind of got involved in the trade network kind of by accident, simply because of the location of it and the fact that we were planning on doing it anyway. And so now we're part of it, but we weren't like part of the beginning of it. And I mean, it's interesting how people have reacted to this, because you know the planning of it has come in bursts. Sometimes bits of it have been very well planned, other bits of it not so well planned. But I think that the people involved, who are numerous and cross a lot of lines that would surprise people, are trying to work it to make it successful.
I thought it was pretty interesting because when your keep star went down, it was in the middle of the map, and I was looking at it thinking, well, what strategic position is this for combat? And it seemed like, well, I guess nobody can get to you, so this would be a lot harder to kill. So was the thinking? Was this when you put down the keep star? I'm sorry, was it before you got involved with it or after?
It was before. Yeah, we'd chosen the location for the Keep Star like months earlier. So it was kind of an interesting coincidence. We didn't choose where we dropped it as a result of anything to do with what the trade network eventually became. For us, looking at it as a mercenary organization that wants to get to all points of the map, equally distanced in the same number of jumps, it just geographically made the perfect sense. It's a low sec island. It's if we don't have randoms coming in and out, roaming gangs of bad guys, and it's I mean, you literally can. You look at dot landing with the new jump ranges, it's even better. So we just simply looked at it as as like a central place to store our stuff. And we don't, like I said, we planned on freeporting it for a while. And if people want to throw their stuff in it, great. Do stuff on the market, whatever. And now with the trade network, well, maybe that'll increase the traffic a bit, whatnot.
Yeah.
But for us, it was a really simple decision based on nothing more than just being able to get around the map as easily
I
as
love
possible.
that you call it Tortuga, which you want to explain what Tortuga means, the significance of it, because it goes all the way back to like early Eve.
Well, Tortuga actually goes back to real life, which it was like one of the biggest pirate strongholds in the Caribbean, and it was where all of the good guys or bad guys, depending upon what side of the guns you were on, hung out. And Tortuga, in Eve history, was like one of the best ideas ever. Executed in absolutely the worst way possible, in the worst location possible, and all of these different things. That's a story for a whole other
You're
time.
right. It's another program.
It's a whole other program. But the thing is that it was always kind of a dream of like a lot of us. Whenever MC got reformed and whenever the Citadels came out, stations were never, the outposts and stuff were never really what a lot of Eve players wanted them to be. And Citadels are much closer to kind of the dream of building someplace that is, your home. So, being able to anchor something, big, that you can store your big stuff in, even outside of the strategic significance of it or whatever, it's just, it's home. This is our home. This is where we live. And that is very important whenever you spend so much time, in building a community and doing things in the game.
Yeah. Well, in Eve, it was you guys were friendly with, you were part of the Greater Bob Coalition, and at some point you broke off and said we're going to make a home of our own in the South, and I believe you moved into, was it Quarius or Period?
No, we were based in period basis back at the time. And so now let me ask you, before you go down this road, do you want this to turn into a history of MC, or are we going to talk about other stuff?
No.
Because we're getting off topic
We are
a
definitely,
bit. I mean,
and I wanted to indulge because we have you here and you've been playing for a long time at a very high level. But this is as far as I was gonna take it, and then we'll come back to the trading company.
Okay.
But
Yeah, the short version is yeah. There was the big Great War and all that stuff. Andrew Groen did a really decent job of writing about this in his book, and we um we basically had been during the early stages of the war. We'd gone up north and basically erased the map in about 3 or 4 months. Came back south and got involved in another longer conflict, and relations just started breaking down for a variety of reasons. And at the time, I was burning out, and other people had other ideas what they wanted to do. So instead of doing things the way I thought they should have been done, they ended up getting done a different way. It didn't work out, and I ended up just closing the alliance in 2008, and it stayed dormant until early 2015.
Hmm.
So, and here we are. So, like I said, that's a
Yeah.
whole other show, and
I actually
we
want to
can
have a show
delve
with
into that
that. I
another
want to do
time.
an interview with you because, again, you play at a different level than most players, and we'll get into it there. So look forward to that. Maybe something over Christmas break, because after all, this is our last show until January. Reaver, I wanted to turn to you. You've been doing a lot of reporting on the trading company, and you've been observing it for a while for Imperium News. What have you been seeing?
Yeah. Well, it as has been mentioned, it started out when Lenny figured out that shooting at 40 stars in high sec wasn't going to make people move. So he has this dream of a neutral trade network across Eve. So he found these strategic locations for the keep stars, and there was originally planned to be 5 of them, and as of now the Mailer one is down, the Bascarin MC one is down, and the Aunanen one is down, and the Jane Leb one, as we know, got blown up this week. So I don't know whether that's going to be re-put down at some point. And then there is one, according to the map, planned for Straloin, which, again, as far as I know, hasn't been deployed yet. But the idea was that they were going to be run by neutral. It was going to be a neutral thing with Cribber controlling the access and controlling the finances on it. And then every month, the people who are managing the Keep Stars would be getting a cut for the hassle of running them, because it's a big network, so it's a lot of administration and a lot of hassle to run it. And I can only imagine how much of a nightmare the admin is on it on a day-to-day basis. And then a section of the profits is meant to go to good causes of various types. So yeah, that's the basic idea behind it. Of the 3 that are deployed at the moment, Celine's is, as Celine said, it's MC, and it's still owned by MC. But Cribber has financial oversight on that one, for making sure that the profits are being distributed properly. And then the Mailer one is still under the care of Care for Kids, as far as I'm aware. So of the 3 that are up, the only one that is under Cribber's direct control, as far as I'm aware, is the one in Aunanen, which is managed by Eve Mogul.
Celine,
So yeah,
were you finished, Reaver?
I was finished. Yeah.
Celine, do you want to add to that?
Yeah, I mean, essentially, the Keepstar and Basquirin is, we still own it and manage it, and the way that this works, at least where we're concerned, is that we're the regional managers. I guess that's the regional governors, blah blah blah, Star Wars reference. But anyway, Cribba has an alt in the holding corp. He's in the master access control list, so he can see if people are added or deleted or any of that type of stuff. He can see the finances. So if there's anything that, there's the level of impropriety that could be committed would be, fairly low. But at the same time, I mean, I think we've been public docking for almost a couple months now, or a little longer, and we see people from good guys, bad guys, however you want to look at it. Everybody comes and goes. It's not a problem. We don't really mind or care, and profit wise, it's not, it's picking up. I think it's a matter of people kind of getting comfortable to the idea, and and starting to make use of the facilities a bit more. I know that the Noonan one probably is by far the most trafficked for obvious reasons over the last few months, but we're not in terms of control.
I'm sorry. That was.
Anyway, anyway, in terms of control, we still own it, but it's the oversight is pretty keen. So we can't really do anything without the all-seeing eye of Kriba, jumping in and saying no, 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 don't do that. But we would do that anyway because it's kind of neat seeing people come and go.
Yeah. Caleb, you wanted to say something?
No, I just would like someone to maybe clarify, because I'm a little bit confused. I've been following this and I've been reading the articles about it as well. The whole difference between, or the distinguishing between neutrality and public project, because there's all this thing about charity, and then about the fact that it's supposed to be many entities of a variety of groups. And I'm just not sure that I can really see what's going on, and there's no reporting from inside. Where is the numbers, right? Who's owning what? Who's managing what? What is the turnover, activity levels? Are you going to publish any of this, or is it just going to be used inside? And what about the neutrality, the way that it's composed at the moment, right? Because it doesn't look very neutral.
I mean, I can take the public list. When I spoke to Lenny for my last article, Lenny said that he was going to do a public list of managers. As yet, we haven't had that, but yeah, that's the last thing that I heard about that. I assume Lenny is still on the running the day-to-day stuff, even though he's banned. I don't know. I'm not involved at all anywhere in the network, so I don't know if the day-to-day administration, like fueling stuff, and as with last week's Jane Leb thing, the defense and that, whether Lenny's still overseeing that. But I do know that we were told that there would be a public list of managers, which hasn't, I think would go some way to diffusing people's misconceptions about the network.
Well, let me just jump in here and say a couple things. First of all, I know that Lenny's kind of a lightning rod for opinions, and rightfully so. As I said, Kriba has oversight of everything. I know that C4W3, he's up there in terms of running things, and helping keep the cats herded and all this stuff. But it's not for me to make a list or anything like that. But what I can say is that in terms of the people that are involved in the project overall, it's a quite a large and interesting cross section of people from all over Eve. There are people that shoot at each other, that aren't shooting at each other because I don't want to make it sound like some pie in the sky type of thing, but I look at this thing personally as a really neat, I wouldn't call it an experiment, but maybe it is. But CCP has always said that they want to put more control of the game into the hands of the players. And this is kind of an attempt to do that, in the sense that instead of everybody going to, NPC stations, going to player built stations. I mean, the perimeter Fortizar is now the center of all of the skill injectors and extractors and plex and everything else. And I mean, that was like a pipe dream a year ago. What this network is looking to there's nothing that says that this is to be the only way that this is done, or this is the only network that's going to be put together. For all we know, there could be 15 keep stars over in the drone regions, that nobody knows about, and they've already done something like this to that whole area, that whole trailer park that no one ever goes to. So it's not about regional control so much as it is about just trying something new that the game has offered us and seeing how far players will let it go. Um, I don't really have any personal aspirations over anything other than just, our little piece of it. You'd have to go up a bit on the ladder and maybe talk to C4 or Lenny himself to get a bigger picture. We're just kind of happy to be doing our little part.
But
And
you're a believer in the concept. Like, this is something you want to see.
oh, absolutely. I'm a believer in the concept because I like trying new things. You've been playing, you've been playing the game for 15 years or whatever it is. You check all the boxes. You run out of things to, you run out of mountains to climb, and you want to do the new things and try something new. And this is a social experiment. It's a construction project. I mean, it's advertised as the largest public works project in New Eden history. That sounds all dramatic and shit. Yeah, why not be involved in something like that? That sounds cool. And it'll stand or fall based on how people perceive it and how it's managed and all these other things. And it's still a new thing. And Jalen, it was mentioned. Well, um, anchoring something and calling it the Wrecking Star may not have been the best move. I don't know.
It's a PR problem.
But yeah, but I mean, it doesn't mean that that was suddenly going to become like somebody's private playground. Just nuke everything in the area. I don't think
Well,
that's
but
not the intent of everybody.
the thing about these things is, you're right. That may not be the intent going in, but what happens when the intent changes because personnel change? We know that people come and go from the game. If you have this network that's out there that reaches, that puts keep stars pretty much in everybody's territory. What are the military consequences of that if, for instance, it becomes a haven for pirates or an alliance or alliances?
Well, I mean, I can give you two answers to that, and one of them's historical. If you look back in time, like almost a decade, there was the Interstellar Starbase Syndicate, and their whole mandate was, laying down Freeport Galente outposts in, areas of space that hadn't quite opened up yet. They did one in Providence, they did one over in Pure Blind, and these were projects that actually at the time MC was involved in helping guard when they were set up and everything else, and it was quite an interesting thing. But what you're saying, over time, yeah, it sort of happened, because the things changed hands. You couldn't tell who was going to be there, a year from now or whatnot. There's nothing really preventing at the moment some big group taking advantage of any of these keep stars and just setting up shop there and projecting their power from any of them. I mean, right now they're all free ported, which, like when CO2 lost theirs up north, they took advantage of the Noonan one being there and were able to keep most of their assets intact. Now, regardless of what anybody's feelings were about that, I'm pretty sure they were happy that that was there at the time. I think that will probably repeat itself with other folks in the future. It's really hard to predict personnel changes, as you say. All I can tell you is that the people that are involved in it right now, it's not completely altruistic, but it's definitely something that everybody has a positive aspiration towards. No one's looking to do this for like any sort of sinister purpose. And that's why Kriba has access to all of the access lists, because nobody can just arbitrarily lock people out without it being noticed. And if you cross that line and start doing it habitually or without good reason, then you're no longer part of the larger project, and then possibly subject to whatever might happen to you beyond that point. So it's it's a bit of a balancing act, but nothing worth doing is ever easy. Nothing that's interesting is ever not hard.
McLeod, you're an initiative, and the keep star that was put down in Jaineleb Derelict, which is right near one of my favorite areas, Podian. I like that system. It was taken out by Goonswarm and CVA and a few other groups. But the funniest thing was FCON showed up to try to defend it, but they said, "Oh, we'll just shoot it." So they turned around and just shot it. But why is Goon Swarm? Why do they have an interest in destroying these things? It looks like they're not going to participate. I know that for a fact because Matani. I think Lenny reached out through me, and I asked Matani if they were interested in participating, and he said, "No, we'll shoot them if we see them. We don't want them anywhere near us." What's going on there? Why is there a new war between Goon Swarm and the Imperium and this trade network, which is a peaceful thing?
Oof. I don't know. I think one of the things with Goon Swarm is they're always very very panicky about the potential of people basing out of sort of somewhat obscure kind of areas, like gray areas, in the same way that like people being able to base out of NPC nullsects without any kind of ability to sort of negate their kind of strategic advantages, right? I think sort of they probably see it in the sense of having these large Keepstar network, like a large Keepstar network that's sort of in the gray area of not being owned by a particular kind of entity, like a particular political entity, means that it's kind of difficult for them to be able to like meta their way around it or be able to deal with it sort of like politically. So because of all the entities involved, all the people involved, not being politically aligned in a certain way.
Mm-hmm.
So I imagine they just kind of went, what, to hell with it.
Reefred, do you know anything about that?
Well, I think the main reason that people turned up to shoot it was that, as you said, as Celine said, it was it was named the wrecking location or something, and it was dropped. It was given to Rocket X, who's obviously in PL, to anchor it. So while it was anchoring, it was a PL Keepstar. So I suspect that was most of the reason that people turned up to shoot it. Whether it was going to be transferred afterwards was less of a thing. It was that it was going down with a PL Corp attached to it.
Yeah, I know that it was given to Rocket X, who's known for tackling and killing supers, just minutes before he put it down in that area. So that could have been, naming it Killing Machine or whatever it was would kind of... but I think Goon Swarm or the Imperium would have attacked it anyway because it had an association with PL. McLeod, did you have...
Well, it's also a 300 billion kill mail, isn't it?
Sure.
Yeah.
There's that.
I was going to touch on that.
I had a question from Slack, by the way, if either Veronica or Celine can answer this. Someone is asking why it was the Jane Lab was launched in the Jane Lab and not Podium.
I have no idea. I can just say that the decision on where to anchor these things is something that's it's made elsewhere. I'm responsible for mine, and the decision as to like who was given these things to anchor or where to anchor them was made. You'd have to talk to Lenny or C4 or one of those guys about it.
Veronica, you as Eve Mogul are in charge of a different part of the network. I don't know how big your part is. Is it just one station?
So we are in charge of the Alnin Keepstar, and also the Fortizars coming from Celine's Keepstar down Bascaran. And our job is to keep everything fueled between here and there. I did want to mention that Shiva does own our Keepstar in Alnin, and we're merely just there as a manager. So even if, say, politics change and I go evil or something, you can just take my access off, and I won't be able to do anything after that. So
you wouldn't go evil, would you?
No. I do believe that this endeavor is something that will be good for Eve, and I just really want to make it work. And I've been trying as hard as I can to make things happen.
Well, it's already creating a lot of content, that's for sure. But it seems as if a little bit like Celine was talking about early history of attempts to do something similar. It seems as if it's a little bit rushed. And again, the organizational stuff and the neutrality, I don't think I really got an answer on those questions.
Well, in terms of it being rushed, I mean, this has been something that's been organically evolving for the last few months. I think that, and I might have an answer to the JLinib question in terms of placement. I think that it was made before the jump range changes came in. Maybe it should have been adjusted for that, but that was probably the reason that it was in JLinib. But in terms of neutrality, I'm not sure. It's people are gonna, people will chase straw men if they want to. It depends on what it is that you want to believe.
Well, the
Um,
way that I see it, if I
you,
can interrupt you, is like you have like let's say you have NSA spying on citizens or listening to them, or however you want to put it, and people say, "Oh, it's Obama. We can trust him. It's fine." But then in comes Trump, and people say, "Oh my God, he's got all my information for you know that that kind of situation happens." So, and Eve is the last place where you can say you can trust me, because people actually say, you know what, I'm kind of tired of the game, I'm going to take off, and then the situation changes. So if you're building this kind of infrastructure, I know you guys put Cribbo up for that sort of thing to say, look, you may not trust us, you may not trust the person that's next, but you can always trust Cribbo, and he's been here forever. So I imagine that was a strategic move to use his credibility and long-standing gameplay as a way of saying this is totally a works program and it's going to benefit everybody that has markets near them. And you don't think that can be corrupted to an extent of, oh my God, now we have NC or PL or Goon Swarm in our neck of the woods in a Keep Star with, the ability to basically put supers in there.
I think anybody can exploit it for any reason, just like they can any NPC station in LowSec, or a lot of, or the way that the sands have shifted in nullsec. There's NPC stations in nullsec that people have been doing this stuff with for a while. Now, the difference, of course, being is that you can dock supers in these things.
Which is a notable difference.
Just yeah, absolutely, it is a very notable difference. But as I said earlier, like with ours, we were going to freeport the thing anyway because it seemed like an interesting thing to do. With player controlled markets and just trying to see what you could do with that. Waffles put up their Keepstar in Kanaka. They had theirs up less than an hour. They freeported it. This isn't. I think this is a. If the concern is that, oh my God, there's going to be Keepstars all over the place that people can base out of, you're not going to stop that. It's going to happen regardless, just like CCP thinking, oh, there's only going to be 10 Titans ever in Eve. A year from now, I mean, look at what's happened just in the last week. A Keepstar was destroyed. Another Keepstar was destroyed. Another one's going up tonight that there's a fight over. This is going to become maybe not commonplace, but definitely not as rare as people might think it is.
But if you're coming into territories, and we'll go to Rivra and Dronica next, if you're coming into territories under the auspices of, hey, we're peaceful, this is going to help you, it's going to help us, it's going to set up a trade, and anybody can use it, then people are more inclined to say, all right, well, let's let them in. Instead of doing what Goonsworm did, which is like, hostile Keepstar in our, sphere of influence, destroy it. So I know it may happen, but it may be fought more instead of just kind of allowed to come in because of the peaceful nature of the network the peaceful nature of the network should kind of like lower people's guard to defend against it initially, because these things are most vulnerable when you put them down. After that, it's like you have to have 5,000 people in system to take it down. Anyway, Dronica or Rivra, do you have something?
Yeah, Dronica can go first.
I was just going to say you can go, Rivra.
Okay. Yeah. I mean, I think I mainly have two things. I mean, as Celine has said, there is a lot of people involved from various networks, various alliances, various corps, various people who aren't in anything. But how many of the management are from this large cross-section of the community? Because out of the 3 Keepstars that are up at the moment, we have yours is owned by the Bascarin one is owned by MC. The Alnanen one is owned by Mogul, which is Dronica. and the C4 C4 owns the mailer one. So 2 out of the 3 that are up now are owned or managed by PL. Is there more diversity in the management team than there appears to be from the ownership of the Keepstars?
I'm just asking a question. Did you just state that my Keepstar was owned by PL?
No. I said yours was owned by you, but
Okay.
Mailer is owned by C4
Okay, gotcha.
W3, who is the CEO of Raikuku. And Veronica owns the Alnanen one, which is Mogul, but Veronica is also PL. So that's 2/3 of the ones that are up now are owned and managed by PL. So my question was just, is the rest of the management team more diverse than the management structure seems to be from the outside?
Veronica, you've been involved in this actually at the management level longer than I have. I mean, I kind of keep an eye on my part of the world, but Veronica, you have anything to say about any of this stuff? You might have a bit more insight.
Yeah, so I'm going to go off on my own, but I do think it's favored more toward PL in a sense in the management, at least the public management. I know that we have a few people from Tri and CO2 are also in management, but so I did ask Lenny that, and he said that there was a Tri guy and a CO2 guy on the staff as well.
Mm-hmm. I think that's kind of what I meant, right?
I can confirm that.
It seems that there's a lot of people that are very visionary and really are rooting for this whole idea, but it just seems like it's very risky to be co-opted or basically clusterfuck from the inside. Or am I missing something?
Who said clusterfuck?
No, I think, I mean, as Selena said, I mean, he basically looks after his Bascarin node, and that's the primary interest for him. And that's definitely MC. It's whether, I mean, Veronica said that there's a Tri guy and a CO2 guy, but that otherwise it's a bit heavy on the PL stuff on the management. So, yeah, I think that is a concern for people because while the list of alliances involved is very large, I don't know how many of them are actually involved at a deeper level or whether they're just periphery in order to, defend, or in the case of Jane Leb, not defend the Keepstars. Because the list of alliances covers darkness. It's NC, it's CO2. It's basically everyone apart from Imperium and Test is listed as being involved.
Seems like enemies
somehow
of Imperium, right? Are we talking about the New World Order and?
I don't know about. I wouldn't say that. I just say that it has everyone involved apart from Test and the Imperium. But yeah, I don't know whether the impression has been given that they are, that's how diverse the network is, and that and then in actuality they're just involved in the periphery, whether they're for hire for the defense of the network or whether they're actually involved in anything other than just being associated.
Okay, well, what I can tell you is that, I know that Lenny is planning on publishing a list about everything here soon, probably directly after this show at the rate things are going. But, there are elements, as I said, and I don't want to start dropping names because I don't really know how much people want to be, like public about their support or not. But I mean, obviously, as has been said, there are elements from everywhere, from Providence to Triumvirate to Darkness. A lot of different entities that normally you wouldn't see, like walking arm in arm. Kind of want to see this thing work because it is a benefit to people all over in terms of movement. And in terms of getting away from, NPC market taxes and being able to have a bit more freedom with regard to, services offered in one spot, not having to run over to a different system because there's no build slots available. And all these little things. So I know that goons were offered to be able to take place in it. And maybe because it was Lenny that made the offer, it was slapped down. I don't know.
Probably not
It
the
wouldn't
best choice
suck.
for a political, politically, because he did fund the war that
Sure.
displaced them from all their territory.
But then again, it's there's Lenny, and there are a lot of people other than Lenny that have been putting money into this thing, and I hate to, it's not as if I gotta be honest, I am not the best spokesperson for this thing. I really am not, because as I've said multiple times, our Keepstar was going to be free ported regardless. We just happened to be in a fairly good location to facilitate north and south movement, and we were fine with okay, cool, yeah, throw us on the thing and we'll go along with that. So it's you really need to get Lenny on here and a couple of the other guys. I'm sure that they're probably like jumping up and down whenever they hear this.
C4 and Lenny are totally invited to the after show. We're going to finish up in 15 minutes, so we'd just be getting started with them. And it was going to get crowded, but totally welcome to the after. Right, McLeod, you're running the after show today, so I imagine.
Yeah.
They can jump in here.
Yeah,
we kind of have
totally.
an open forum after the show. It isn't. It's not to disparage anybody, especially Lenny, who I met in Las Vegas, great guy. But it's more in terms of, I can see it from both points of view, especially from yours. Wow, this is a big works project to be involved with. I mean, we all run over to whatever system is the first of anything, and here's something that's bigger than any Titan being blown up or Keepstar being blown up. This is like setting down all roads to Rome, to Jeddah, and to have this web of market so that goods can travel instead of having logistics for every single corporation, and not being a viable corporation in nullsec unless you have logistics or rely on somebody's logistics. So it seems on that view, it's a very neat thing to be a part of. From Alliance's point of view, it's kind of like, there's this web of these forts that are coming into our areas, and should we trust them because we'll get supplies from them, or should we destroy them because they are forward operating bases against our interests, that sort of thing. So I can see the two sides of it. So it's a very interesting thing that it's running into resistance in the south with Goonswarm, who's generally doesn't like democracies anyway. So, they're just out and out attacking it. But to see CVA jump on it, I mean, it might have been just a kill mail, but it might have been like, we don't want Rocket X to have a citadel with a super capability in our region of influence. And again, it's not that Lenny's not trustworthy, or that Kriba's not trustworthy, or that you're not trustworthy. It's more the concept of it is interesting. It's going to create an interesting conflict. So I'm pretty sure, and I don't know this from anybody else, but it seems like Matani is going to declare war on this network, basically, at least in the south. McLeod, do you have any special knowledge about that? Being in this?
I don't. I wanted to ask a
Sure.
quick question. I wasn't sure whether Celine or Jeronica or even Reva might know this, but like, just going off your comments about the network basically being to be utilized by traders to move things all around New Eden. I mean, if I need stuff moved around in New Eden, generally I tend to poke Red Frog Freight, that kind of thing. Yeah. I was just wondering whether they'd actually been contacted about being part of the group.
Well, I can't speak for the other Keepstars, but Red Frog does deliver to our Keepstar, and that was as of about a week ago. Probably would have been sooner, but I literally just brain farted it and said, "Oh, wait a minute, this is probably a good idea." Got in touch with them, and they signed right on. So yeah, it's
Cool.
like I said, it's as open as we can make it. Come by, say hi.
I think it's a well-known fact that I'm a big fan of any attempts to civilize null space.
Of course,
and
you're European
general,
colonist,
right? Well, I've been involved in things like this before, but I think what I'm seeing with this project is that I'm a little bit disappointed that it was not made more into some sort of public offering, right? Some sort of IPO that people could get in on, and with a proper business model. I'm getting a little bit of flashback to eBank, of course, on a totally different scale and in a different area. But it's like it's very insular and obscure. You can't really see what's going on. You can't really get any idea of expected returns of investment, or you don't have the diversification of spreading out the risk. So what's your thoughts on that, Celine? Because you have basically done this before, or at least in some form, right? So why did you not consider doing something more public?
Okay, well, once again, you're putting me in a position that I'm not actually in. This project that's a better question for like the after show when you actually get Lenny on here. There was a big post on Reddit that C4 made. Lenny does his PR thing. I'm not literally I'm just here kind of talking on behalf of like our part in the greater whole, and he's and those guys are much better qualified to answer some of those questions with regard to why hasn't there been more public outreach or whatever. I mean, I got to be honest. I mean, there's members of my own alliance that literally just like okay, the Keepstars free-ported, cool. Don't shoot people, right? Yeah, okay. And that, to them, that's all they care about. They don't really. It's the bigger picture isn't even something that crosses a lot of people's mind, and that's fine, because we're not really. While I believe in the project and I want to see it succeed, it's not my project. It's something that we're involved with, and I'm quite enjoying seeing how it goes. But the questions that you're asking are things that hopefully Lenny can shed a bit more light on here in about 10, 15 minutes?
Yeah, it's about 10 minutes. That's true. The nature of why it was built and all that stuff is better answered by Lenny, and the person in charge of the network now is C4, I believe, from Reikoku, and they can jump on the after show. What I wanted to find out was, beyond the military stuff and the perception and the PR and all that, is economically, like, is this an engine for wealth making?
Not really so far. I gotta be honest.
Yeah, I'm seeing the same in the Outing and Keepstar. The rate it's going will barely break even with the fuel costs and all that. So
yeah,
that's also tied into that it's a little bit rushed, right? Because the ecosystem has not changed enough yet to warrant this scale of project yet.
I wouldn't say that it's rushed, Caleb. I think it's more along the lines of people may not even realize that this sort of thing is even possible. There's the people that are still going to Jita and to Dixie and Amar. They may not. The majority of Eve players, as CCP has said many, many times, are blissfully unaware of a lot of things that are like the most important things in the universe to us. So they might not even realize that these options exist. And I think it's going to take time for a larger part of the player base to even understand what's going on around them, which is why, every time we see one of these big structures goes up, whether it's a Keepstar or Fortizar, it's a step in the direction that CCP said they wanted to take the game, which is, more out of the NPC stations.
This is where I should just admit that I have just moved into player-owned structures because my rental bill reached 400 million a month, and that is something that I'm wondering how many players are actually playing and paying those office bills without considering that there's an alternative.
Well, our offices are $1 million a month, and I think that's the sales tax is locked at 1%. I think in all of these Keepstars. I think it's the same in the Waffles Keepstar as well. Regardless of what network people, I mean, people talk to each other, and I think that even without this kind of umbrella of crib or whatever, a lot of people are really keen on trying to see where the game goes with the tools that we've been given.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I would. I mean, as Celine said, a lot of times he's not directly involved with management. He manages his Bascarin one, which has actually got a nice little city growing up down there. There's one on the high sec gate into Bascarin as well. So, and there's ECs going up down there. So Celine's running that bit, but Veronica's more involved from my understanding, in the day-to-day management of it. So I was gonna, ask first of all about why. Do you know, Veronica, why no one came to defend the Jane Leb Keepstar? And secondly, about the day-to-day administration, because it's a huge network, so it must take a lot of effort to coordinate fueling all the towers and making sure that payments are going out to the right people. So how is the admin side of that working?
So I'm pretty much just taking care of my area too. I was actually this morning jumping fuel around. I've lost quite a few Sino ships doing it, but so far we're still trying to get, I guess, some ISK in the wallet. But so there hasn't been much ISK paid out because I believe that managers are supposed to be paid a certain percentage. But like I don't mind not being paid. I wanted to prosper the network as a whole, but day to day, I think it's more of the manager's duty to keep the day to day stuff going. And I've been trying to get some solid contacts in nullsec and all that to supply Keepstar as well.
Well,
I don't know if that
you're
answered
in PL, so if anything goes wrong with your Keepstar, it'll get defended, I imagine, by your own alliance. Or is this a side
I don't
project?
think that's. I think like I don't consider myself politically PL. I'm more politically mogul and neutral. But I did ask PL to help defend our Fortizar in the high sec when it did get attacked by the VMG, which we thought was Lenny. Turned out it wasn't. He's a good guy. But I think that NETC should handle all the contracted kind of defense and don't rely specifically on the managers for their political ties, because that ties into the whole what if they want to lock someone out, then you have to just opens it up for abuse.
Maybe you guys hire mercenaries as blue hats to kind of control each one of them, and they don't belong. You lose your identity for the alliance, and you gain the identity of the trade company as part of the pipelines.
No, that ain't gonna happen.
Nobody's gonna give up.
Like I said,
I do believe we did hire we did bring a corp in that was going to help defend citadels and all that. So,
well, the money making.
They're actually in alliance.
Going back to the money making thing, I thought okay, so I want ISK and the other casinos. The really exponential money making machines are now gone, and it seems like turning the investments into something legitimate, like a trade network, seems like that's the only place you can really put that amount of money or that amount of effort. And is that
it should be very successful, right? The numbers should look very good, and that's what I'm missing. What I've been trying to ask about: who's actually got those numbers, and why can't we see them?
I think that these sort of things take a while to take off. I mean, I've tried setting up mini hubs in places over the years, and you don't get results in a month, 2 months. You're running heavily in the red for several months. So it's a question of having enough of a buffer of ISK to maintain your wallet and any payments you have to make and stuff while you wait the 6 months to a year or something for the network to properly take off.
I figure it's the building phase is going to take a lot. Just figuring at some point that when does it start paying off in a big way? I don't know. These things happen, right? You build a giant building, you spend a lot of money doing it, and then it improves the skyline and people move into it. And, for the next 30 years, you're making money. I figure it's like that.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think it's a more long-term kind of investment. That's the same way I look at my structures in Mogul and High Sec.
Mm-hmm.
I don't expect a return overnight, pretty much.
Yeah, in EVE terms, if you buy a BPO, it's going to cost you a lot of money, and eventually maybe you'll get it back if you're at it long enough. But it seems to, for EVE at least, it seems to take years to get a return on investment, right?
Well, that depends a lot on what type of blueprint you're talking about.
Yeah, I'm thinking of like a capital ship or a super capital ship or something.
Yeah, those things are not very good on return of investment. They're very good as a storage of wealth, and thus you get some sort of interest every month, right? So that's how you should really view it. And it's kind of similar with things like Tech2 BPOs, which is that they have like, what, 5-10 years return of investment, but it's a very safe deposit of ISK, and you can most likely sell it off very easily.
Assuming it doesn't get nerfed.
Yeah, assuming that. Sorry.
That's right. Riva?
I think one of the things that everyone has been wondering about, and because I know that you're only involved in the Bascarin one, really, Celine, and Veronica's only mainly involved with the Alningham. But why did no one come to defend the Janeleb Keepstar?
You seen where that fucking thing was dropped?
What you say?
I mean, it's. I think it's hard to say. I think there was a combination of things that went wrong there, and it was it was probably named wrong, dropped by the wrong corp, the location, possibly not enough warning or coordination with people that could have or should have shown up to defend it. But even regardless of all of that, I mean, let's be completely honest. It's been quite a while since anybody has seen goons mobilize to the extent that they did for that. There's been flashes of them flexing in Fountain and Aquarios and so forth, and and everybody likes watching Boat do his thing and all that stuff. And they showed up, up in the north a few times in tribute, but that was a very expensive intel report, I think.
Intel error.
And seeing, and well, no, not necessarily error. I'm just saying, in seeing what could happen if there's a misstep and goons decide to do something about it these days. So, it's easy to say. I mean, goons were there. Stainwagon showed up. Pravi showed up in a Nightmare fleet. And there were, 1,700 people there within less than 24 hours. That's not exactly common. That doesn't happen a lot. And it's that sort of thing, that sort of reaction was obviously not predicted. So, it'll be interesting to see where things evolve going forward. If they decide to maybe place the new nodes somewhere else, or give up on it altogether, or what. I mean, this is, like I said, you're gonna have Lenny on the after show. I'm gonna be listening to that. I'm quite curious.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So
I think a lot of people.
Well, if they agree to come on, I'm not speaking for them that they're going to be on, but if they're totally welcome. And we'll actually finish up real quick. I just want to put this last thing out there. It was interesting because Goon Swarm and the Imperium put together 1,000 to 1,200 people, and that's the same scale as when they were defending themselves early on in up there in Deckline and the northern area. So it seems like they're at full strength or close to it. Doesn't it? Or is that just me, or does it seem like that's a big showing?
Yeah, I think it was. I think as Celine said, it took a lot of people by surprise. But then on the other hand, once news got out of a Keepstar being anchored, it was probably inevitable that everyone was going to show up to try and get on the kill mail. And I think as well, there were probably a lot of people in PL and NC and other groups that were just burned out after the M-Taco hell that happened earlier in the week.
Right. Exactly. There was a huge fight. Who wants to be in tie-dye for another 6 hours? And that said, at the same time that Keepstar was onlining, NC and PL were fighting with CO2 over a Fortizar in the north. So it's possible that went on longer than expected, and that might be why it wasn't defended. There's a number of reasons, but it is interesting to see this dynamic come up, this trade network being built. Who defends it, who manages it is important because it may scare people who don't want to trust it. On the other hand, who else could do something like that? Maybe that's the only way it can be done, is under the protection of PLNC, Triumvirate, CO2. And is it part of a New World Order, or is that two completely different things? It's going to be interesting to see how that unfolds. Okay, last thoughts for you guys. Then we're going to slip into the after show with McLeod, who's going to host that. You guys have anything you want to cover or say anything to anyone?
I'd just like to say good luck with it, regardless of where it ends up.
Yeah, I just like to say, yeah, I know I've been being annoying on this episode, but I
No.
I want more trade hubs in Eve. I just want them to be organized properly and not. I've seen too many things in Eve fall apart because people don't organize things properly, and I wouldn't like that to happen to this.
Yeah, very true.
I think overall, you guys, the line of questioning has been excellent and very fair in my opinion, because if from even inside of this thing, I well, it's inside, that's a relative term. I mean, we're just kind of like, I feel like we're just kind of along for the ride to an extent, but we kind of share the dream, and empires rise and fall, ideas succeed and fail, and no one ever got anywhere in Eve without trying to see what would happen next. And as I said, people want to. I think for the most part, people would like to see something like this succeed. But I do believe that it's up to Lenny and some of the other guys to maybe find a way to make things a bit more transparent with regard to the plans or where it's going next.
Awesome. Jonica?
Yeah, I agree with that. There needs to be a little more communication to the public and more like public knowledge about everything, I think.
Yeah, I think transparency is important for something like this, or for any big thing in Eve, really.
Next iteration, I will be buying in on any IPO you guys start.
Yeah, hopefully by then the CCP figures out the whole shares thing and people can actually make investments and you can actually see a real economy emerge. It'd be interesting.
Don't get your hopes
Okay,
up.
well,
Yeah, and
That's a
I'll
reach.
believe in that when I see the documentation for how to
I
play this.
got to keep Star to sell you if you
Yeah.
believe that. All right. Thanks everyone for showing up. Stay tuned. Next is McLeod is going to do an after show. Probably continue this topic and many more. It's kind of an open forum, so if you want to, go ahead and jump into Talking in Stations Discord and hang out with us. That'll go on for a little while. McLeod, do you have anything you want to say as an introduction?
Like introduction wise, like I mean, it should be pretty cool. Like I'm gonna try and get Lenny on, maybe C4 W3 on.
These are the guys at the center
Skeptics,
of this whole thing.
Skeptics kind of wanting to come on as well. So we're gonna have Skeptic Nerd Guy. He was the guy who was behind the scenes, like helping smooth over and basically make the Imperium tournament that was on last week sort of run really well. So yeah, I mean, there's going to be some good talking points. We're going to obviously carry on with this subject quite a bit and maybe touch on a few other things.
Excellent. I'm going to go handle some wife aggro because I've got to make breakfast. Thank you all very much for showing up.
Oh, wow. Oh, and Caleb.
Thanks very much, guys, for showing up. We will see you next time on Talking in Stations.